Good morning, grade 12 learners, and welcome to today's lesson. My name is Elizabeth Meyer, and this lesson is brought to you by the Gauteng Department of Education in collaboration with Sybona Discovery. Please remember we've got a WhatsApp number, so you're welcome to contact me. If you have a question, please post it there. The number is 064 748 8913. I hope it's going well. It's great to see you. Let's start. Today we were looking at paper 1, and I'll give you an overview to get you ready for the June prelim and of course your final exam. I'm sure by now you know that paper 1 is the comprehension and language paper, well, including the summary as well. You have 2 hours to complete it in. And yes, you will have enough time if you manage your time well. I'm sure you feel at the beginning of a year there's an overload of information. But don't be scared. This is a fun way to get you ready for paper 1. So what are the sections? I think it's really important that you know exactly what to expect. Knowledge is power. So the more you know, the easier this will be. So let me remind you again quickly. We have a comprehension of 30 marks. You have a summary of 10 marks. And then you have a section C, which is your language, 40 marks. Yes, I'm not sure if you look at that, it does look like a lot of work that you have to complete in 2 hours. Let's break it down for you. Section A is your comprehension. This part of the paper will consist out of 2 parts, your text A and a text B. Now your comprehension is a text, about 600 to 700 words. And don't worry, you're able to read it. In this case, we will ask 24 marks on the text. And always remember, the questions always start right at the beginning with the first paragraph and we run it down. Your text B will be a visual text and 6 marks will be asked here. Please remember, even though it's a visual text, it is still comprehension-like questions that will be asked. It is not visual literacy. So just keep that in mind. So, you know now what the comprehension is 30 marks, and you know the 2 texts that it consists of. Let's break it down a little bit further. Something that you really need to do in preparation for your paper 1 throughout the year is to treat every comprehension text as if it is a question paper. If you can practice this every time you have to answer comprehension, by the time you get to your June prelim and final exams, you'll be an absolute expert. So I'm going to show you how to read a comprehension text. Let's start. Remember, you'll have 10 minutes reading time. So it would be a good idea to teach yourself to take 10 minutes to read. Time yourself. Put on your timer on your phone and see if you're able to read the text within the required 10 minutes. You should be able to do that. So first, read through it. Then I need you to look at the title. What does it mean? What is the text all about? You see, this is where you can start using your reading strategies, including prediction. You might wonder what the text is all about, and you might have a good idea. Maybe you've heard about it before. Another question you need to ask yourself is what happens in the text? When does it take place? Is it something ancient or is it something modern we're talking about? While you're reading, I need you to think critically. Do I agree with the writer? If not, why do I not agree with the writer? And then I need you to read the final paragraphs very carefully. Why did the writer decide to write this text specifically? What is his purpose? So, keeping all these questions in mind, you have to read and practice very, very carefully every time. So, as you can see, I'm flagging them for you again. Start at the title, read the passage, get a good gist what's going on, and make up your opinion to say, yes, I agree, or no, I really don't agree with this. So after you've read the passage, what's next? Well, obviously you have to move on to the questions. It's always a good idea to see what they want from you. Study the questions carefully. I really think it is important while practicing your comprehension to have a pen in your hand so that you can look at the questions. And you can label them. Which ones do I find easily to answer? Some of them might be a bit more tricky. And which ones want my opinion? So you can label your question to say, this one is easy, I'll give it a tick. This one is a bit more tricky, maybe I'll give it a question mark. And this one needs my opinion. I'll make a star next to that one. By doing that, you will feel confident to say, these are the ones I can answer. For these ones, I have to be a little bit more careful. It is really important for you to underline your question words. I'm sure in your book, your teacher has given you a list of question words. Please make sure that you know the different ones. They're going to become very handy. So underline your question word and encircle the keyword or idea that is required for you in the question. What exactly do they want from you? And be careful. In English full, it is all about the instruction. Do they want me to quote? Do they want me to list? Do they want me to explain? Be careful. So, we've read through, we've looked at the questions. What is step number 3? Well, you need to read the passage once again. And please make this a habit. Remember, the more times you are able to read the comprehension, the easier this will be for you. Now, use your pen and your highlighter and make notes as you go. You can now know where a possible answer is. So if you do find an answer in your comprehension, indicate it for yourself. Write the number there that you say, oh, here's the answer to that question. It's so much easier. Yes, and you are allowed to have a highlighter or a pen ready. That question paper is yours. Please use it. When reading, you might find that some of the words are unfamiliar to you and you've never seen them in your life. So if you find something like that, underline or highlight them. Sometimes there are contextual clues all around you that will help you to get to the definition of that word. So don't despair if there's a word that you don't understand. There will be clues, I promise you. Something that you need to look out for is joining words or conjunctions. Remember, these are words that link paragraphs with each other, but they might also show a contrast. It's always interesting. So make sure you encircle them as well as you go on. Your next step after you've read is to make sure that you are able to summarize each paragraph in your own words. Just make a quick note what each paragraph is all about. That will give you a good idea what the whole text is all about. And it will show you if you know what you've read. Now, so remember, we've read through it a second time. We are now ready to answer the questions. As I said, your questions will start at the beginning of a text and move through in sequence. We love referring you to a specific paragraph or a line. Please don't ignore that instruction. Please go back to the specific paragraph or line that is mentioned in the question. Reread it. Make sure you understand the line or paragraph before you answer the question. Oh, this is really important. Not only do you have to look at the question words and the keywords in every question, you also have to look at the mark allocation. The mark allocation tells you exactly how many marks it is and how much you have to write. That is really important. Sometimes learners forget and write too little, and then they lose the marks. Remember, it is about one fact, one mark. So if we ask for 2 specific facts, make sure you've included 2 very different ones. If something counts 3 marks, and usually it's a discuss question, remember then that you have to substantiate what you say. And you have to use the peel method. I'm sure you know all about that. So mark allocation is crucial when answering questions. As I've said, you have to make sure that you have your list of action words. Now remember, in the exam, you're not going to have your list nearby, which means you have to know it very well. That's why it is so important that while you are practicing comprehension tests from past papers or from your textbooks, please make sure that at every question you refer back to your list of action words so that you know later exactly what is asked. On the screen, you will see I've included 6 words or 6 phrases. It doesn't mean they're the only 6 that there is. There's a lot more. But I thought it'd be a good idea to focus on these 6. Do you know what they mean? Let me give you a moment. I'm sure you know exactly what they mean. You've got list, state or give, compare, explain, discuss, and do you agree? Do you know what the differences is? Let's look at it. When you're asked to list, you have to write your answers underneath each other. The easiest way to remember this is like a shopping list. When you compile a shopping list, you definitely don't write it down next to each other, do you? No. You make a list underneath each other. So, if the question says, list 3 ways to study better, make sure you write 3 different facts underneath each other. You can use bullet points or even number them, but make sure they are underneath each other. That is really important. Because if you only write one long sentence and including all 3 facts, unfortunately, only the first fact is going to be credited. So make sure when you list, think of a shopping list. The next one is state or give. Now, that's different from list. Let's see how. In this case, you have to use your own words and usually provide 2 different points. Now, this is really important. So I need you to make a note about this. You are never allowed to quote unless we tell you to quote. That is really important. So please do not quote unless we ask you to quote. So if the question says state 2 points, go back to the text, find the 2 points you want to use, but write them into your own words. It's similar to the summary where you have to write things in your own words. So very, very important. What is important here, you need to check how many points do I need to give. Can you see the difference now between list and state or give? Let's look at the next one. Compare. So what do you do when you compare something? Obviously, you have to give it differences as well as the similarities. Again, in this case, you have to make sure that you write in full sentences. For instance, if you compare apples and pears, you might say an apple is round, a pear has a completely different shape. But you can also do the similarities. Both apples and pear are fruit. Please make sure that you don't only focus on the differences. If you can find a similarity, please include it. Very important, make sure you write in full sentences. I hope you noticed something. The questions are getting gradually more difficult. So the first ones will be easy questions, am I right? The next one might be a bit more tricky. And remember, when you read the questions, I ask you to make a note, the easy ones and the more tricky ones. Now, explain is one of those more tricky ones you're going to get. So what do you have to do when you have to explain something? Now, this is one where you have to write in your own words, most definitely. But you have to give evidence. In this case, the answer is not directly in the text. You have to read between the lines. So you have to give evidence what you say. You really have to explain every single word. And we love asking you this question. We would give you a phrase or a word from the text and we would ask you, explain what is meant with the following words or the following phrase. When there's only one word, it's easy. But the moment there are more than one word, you have to explain all of them. Please remember that. Don't leave out words. Make sure you explain everything. And get evidence from the text to support your idea. Remember, definitely own words here. Be careful and look carefully at the mark allocation. It's usually 2 marks. Now, if you get a question that says discuss, immediately the peel method should jump up. Because if you have to discuss, we really expect you to be critical of whatever we're asking you to discuss. And I'm sure you know the peel method. Do I need to tell you again? I'm sure you know it. Let's do it together. P stands for point. E stands for explain or example. And then you've got another E. Example or explain. So if you started here with an example, then your next E will be to explain. And the last one is your L. This is where you link it back to the question, the peel method. Remember, we're not only using this method in our paper 1 on comprehension. You're going to use it in your advertisement, answering your cartoon question. You're going to use it using your paper 2 when you have to discuss something there. You're even going to use it in paper 3 when you write your argumentative essay. So this is absolutely crucial that you implement this. One of our favorite questions is the one that's 6. Do you agree? Now, this is not a trick question. We really want your opinion. But what we do want as well is for you to say, yes, I agree, or no, I don't agree. Now remember, you will never get marks for yes or no, but it has to be there. And once again, you're going to use the peel method to unpack why you agree or why you don't agree. And the same rules apply. You're going to make a point, you're going to explain, you're going to give us an example, and you're going to link it back to the question. Once again, a question like this might count up to 4 marks. So make sure you substantiate. That's a word we love to use, substantiate. Basically means give us evidence. Always go back to the text. Yes, we would love to hear your opinion, but stick to the text. Can you see how important it is to have your list of action words in your memory? So while practicing this here, please make sure that you know your action words. Now your text B is an interesting one. We have no idea what they're going to ask in the exam. But I can give you some examples. It might be a graph, as you can see on the screen. It might be an infographic. It might be a picture. It might even be a cartoon or an advertisement. It might even be a picture, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, where they show us at a four-way stop who's supposed to drive first. They can literally give you anything, but you have to be prepared. So how on earth are you supposed to answer these questions? Well, it's easy. Let me help you. Before you go to the questions, you need to ask yourself, what kind of text is this? Is it a cartoon? Is it a graph? Because that will determine exactly what information is included. What information does it show? Are there pictures? Are there words? And what is the connection between the two of them? So I really need you to take a few minutes and just look at your picture very carefully and analyze it. What do I see? What do I read? How are the two connected with each other? Can you see? I haven't even started on the questions yet because you have to take time to unpack it for yourself. So here it says on your screen, you'll see it says how to increase brain power. And we have a number of things. We have pictures of food. And at the bottom, we have a person, a lady, who seems to exercise, sleep, and meditate. And we even have a picture of a brain. Now, can you see if you just look at that? So all the things work together to increase your brain power. And obviously the words shows us exactly what she does. Clever, isn't it? So let's go to step 2. What's the next one? After you've looked at this, this is now where we can really go down to the questions and start looking at what exactly are our questions that we need to find. Now, as I said, don't be scared if you get a question like these or a picture like this. I know sometimes we struggle with maths questions, but it's really easy if there's a graph. So even if you have maths literacy or maths, you don't have to be afraid. You will be able to do it. If there is a graph, please read very carefully what it says on your x-axis as well as your y-axis. Remember, all the information will be there in the picture. You just have to unlock it. And just like we had the comprehension questions were quite easy and some are more tricky and some ask your opinion, with text B, it's most definitely going to be the same. There's going to be a question that's going to be really easy. Some might be a little bit more tricky. But can I tell you a secret? One of the questions we love asking you, especially on a text B, is do you think the pictures are better or are the words better? So keep that in mind when you look at your text B. Now, if I just look at this one in front of me, which one is better, the words or the pictures? Now, even though the pictures are quite cute, if you don't know what they mean, you're really going to struggle to figure out how to increase your brain power, aren't you? So that's one way, but we can say some people don't like reading. And some people will be able to recognize the food, for instance. And obviously, it will be much easier for them to see the pictures than the words. So don't be scared when you get a text B. It is really easy. Let's move on to the next one. As I said, read the words, look at the picture. Look how the words support your picture. And only now, if you have a good idea what's going on there, then you go to the questions. And please do exactly the same we did with the comprehension. Underline your question word, look at your keywords, and of course, look at that mark allocation. And before you know it, you've answered the complete comprehension for 30 marks. A last tip I'd like to give you on a comprehension is the following. I really think this works. You need to read your text at least 3 times. So while you're practicing this during the year, please make sure you read your text as many times as possible. And not only your comprehension text, your literature text as well. But when you get a text, read it 3 times, think twice, and of course, have you guessed it? Yes, I'm sure you have. Write once. Your first idea is usually the right idea. So if you have an idea, write it down immediately. You might later think, oh, this is not completely right. Think twice before changing it. And very important, please never leave out the question. If you're not sure, just try something. You have to answer every single question. Don't leave open a question. Right. I'm sure you feel so much better for the comprehension. Our next question is, of course, the summary. And you know, when we summarize, we take a large piece of text and we reduce it to the main ideas. Now, very important with your summary is the instructions. That is key. You know, of course, this is the easiest part of the question paper. And I always suggest to the learners that you have to start here because it's easy to get the marks. The marks are already there, the answers are there. You just need to find them. So let's look at your instructions. all summaries in the question paper will have the same instructions. So you will know exactly what to expect. Now, your summary must be written in point form. Point form doesn't mean bullets or little hearts or little ticks. Point form means 1 point and a sentence. Number 2 point and a sentence. Number 3 point and a sentence until you get to 7. So make sure you get it right. In home language, you're required to write in a paragraph, but in your first additional language, point form. Let's look at the following instruction. You have to list 7 points in full sentences. That's really important. I think I should have highlighted the full sentences. If something is not in a full sentence, we cannot credit it. So how do you know it's a full sentence? It's easy. If there's a verb in it, it's a full sentence. As easy as that. Now, remember, you're not allowed to use more than 70 words. Are we going to count your words? Yes, we are. So make sure you count your words as well to ensure that you're only using 70 words. You may use less than 70 words. But if you're only going to use 30 words, I think there's going to be a problem. Somewhere you're going to leave something out. Let's look at the next instruction. Number your sentences from 1 to 7. Can you see how number 3 links up with number 1? You have to number your sentences 1 to 7, underneath each other. Right. Write only 1 point per sentence. That means only 1 fact per sentence. So what happens if you decide to include 2 facts per sentence? Unfortunately, only the first fact will be marked, and the second one will be ignored, because the instruction clearly says 1 fact per sentence. Oh, this is a difficult one, isn't it? Write your own words as far as possible. I know, sometimes it's quite difficult to put something into your own words. It is really tricky. This is why it is so important that throughout the year you practice writing a summary. You need to practice this so that you get used to writing in your own words. Can I give you a tip or two how to write in your own words? First, are there any words that you can give a synonym for? 2, maybe you can change the sentence into the passive voice. Maybe you can change the verb into another tense. Those are easy ways to change a sentence into your own words. And obviously, then you're not quoting anymore. Right, very important. And this one links up again with number 2. Indicate the total number of words you have used in brackets at the end of the summary. Please don't lie. As I said, we do actually count the number of words. So count your words and put it down in brackets after your final. Now, what is really important when you do this summary is to know exactly what you need to summarize. So above the instruction, they will tell you exactly what are they looking for. Are they looking for the 7 ways to sleep better or 7 ways to make friends? Make sure you identify what you must summarize. And what I suggest you do then is take that topic and write it in big, bold, fat letters on your paper so that you can see it every time. Now, read the topic. And then you go back to every single sentence in the passage. And you think, does this answer the question that's given to me? Does this show me how to make friends? If it doesn't, what do? You delete it. Keep only those that are relevant to your question. Now remember, you are allowed to do a rough draft, but you have to indicate to us that it is planning or a rough draft. Even better, draw a line through it when you're done, when you have your final. I know I'm giving you a lot of information, but I'm sure you're making notes as we go on. Now, there's 5 steps to summarize a text. And again, please implement these 5 steps as you practice for the exam. And yes, I know it seems far. I mean, your first exam is only in June. But practice makes perfect. And if you start now practicing already, a summary is going to be a breeze. Now, this shouldn't be new information. This is something you should have been done from grade 10 already. So I'm sure you know the 5 steps to summarize a text. Do you know that? Can you name them? Let's see. The first one is, of course, delete. Go through your passage, read it, and delete everything that is not answering the question. And yes, do it on your question paper. Just draw a line through that sentence if it's not relevant. What's the next one? Yes, keep. Now, after you've done deleting, decide which ones of these sentences you want to keep for your summary. These will form the main ideas of your summary. Do you know what the next one is? Well done. Right, now you replace. Ooh, this is a difficult part. Now, remember, as we said, you can't quote. You should be writing this in your own words. So you need to find words that you can replace with synonyms. So go through the line that you are keeping and see are there words that you have as synonyms for it. Or see if there are a number of words, if you can give one word instead of a number of words. List your sentences. Remember, you've got all your sentences now. You've done it in your own words. Now you start packing them, one underneath each other. And please make sure, as I said, that there is one fact per sentence. And what is the last thing? Probably the easiest one. You write your final summary. You're going to count your words, obviously, and write it at the end. And just read your summary once again to make sure, have I done the correct thing? Now, the best way to use your summary to check if everything is perfect is to use your list of instructions. You know, the ones we started with? Use that as a checklist. It's a brilliant idea, isn't it? So, check for yourself. Is my summary written in point form? Tick. Do I have 7 points and no more than 70 words? Tick. Did I number my sentences from 1 to 7 or did I use bullets? So if you've numbered, well done, you get that tick. Did I give one fact per sentence? Now you have to make sure of that. So what I suggest you do in this case, just go back to the original summary and just double check. Aren't you perhaps including too much information? Have you limited yourself to one fact? Well, if you have, there's your tick. Did I use my own words as far as possible? Tick. Be careful. You can't change the meaning then. And last one, did I indicate the total number of words in the brackets at the end of my summary. Click. And there it's done. Can you see how easy it is to write a summary? Everything has been given to you. We even give you a checklist to make sure you've done everything. And this is again why I say your summary is your easiest part of your paper. This is really where you need to score the marks. So throughout the year, try to do as many summaries as you can. It's a skill that you will develop. It's like building muscles. And when you get to your exam paper, it will be muscle memory then. Are you ready? We have to move on to section C. Now you will remember, this is your biggest section. It counts 40 marks. So you really need to spend enough time on this. Let's just quickly stop there. Time management is quite a problem. We sometimes find that learners take too long on the comprehension. And by the time they get to section C, they don't have time left. So when you're practicing completing a question paper, please time yourself. Make sure you have enough time to complete this part of the paper as well. Because again, there are easy marks for you. Now in this case, the language section counts 40 marks, but you'll have 3 separate questions. One question will be on your advertisement, one will be on your cartoon, and one will be on language specifically. Now, I know it says question 5 language, but remember, in your question 3 and in your question 4, there will be 2 marks additional language questions. So don't be surprised when these language questions suddenly pop up at your advertisement in a cartoon. Be prepared for them. As I say again, make sure you know your language. So let's start with the basics again. I'm sure you know the AIDA principle. You've learned it from grade 8 already. The problem is in grade 12 is that you need to be able to recognize it in a text. So you have to be able to say, aha, this is how they grabbed my attention. So remember, we will never ask you to name the AIDA principle. You have to implement it in your answers. Let's look at that. To get it, put it straightforward and simple. This is what the principle is all about. I see an advertisement and I ask myself, what is that? That's attention. Obviously, then I read the words and I think, I like it. That's your interest. And the next thing, it creates a desire. I want it. And then we go over to action. Yes, I'm buying it. So that's how the AIDA principle works. Grabs your attention, creates interest, causes desire, and gets you to buy it. And remember, that's what advertisements are all about. They want your money. That's what they want. They want you to buy this product or use this service. And they're going to do everything they can to get your attention, create interest, make you desire it, and go over to action. So if you can recognize that in an advertisement, you sort it. So I brought this advertisement along, and I want you to have a quick glance at it and look at everything you see. There's a lot of information in this advertisement, isn't there? So let's go step by step through it. It grabbed our attention, didn't it? Yes, most definitely. Usually they grab your attention by using a certain font of words, bold print, shapes, photos, a catchy slogan, unusual layout. Now, if you look at this one, what do you think grabbed your attention first? Now, I'm sure there might be quite a number of different answers. Let's look at them. Immediately, you will see there are different fonts. The headline is different from the line underneath it, the subtext. So that grabbed my attention. The other thing is the unusual layout. Can you see the diagonist person is right on the side, on your left-hand side, whereas the dog food is right on the other side. Now, again, copywriters are very clever. We read from left to right. So our eyes immediately go from left to right. And that's why the focal point of this advertisement is, of course, the dog on this person. They wanted you to do that, see that. And they look so happy, don't they? And I'm sure it creates an emotional reaction with you immediately. That's exactly what they want to do. Is there anything else that you noticed? Let's see. The other thing that I noticed, of course, are all these little, small little pictures that are underneath the headline. Can you see them? I'm not quite sure what they all mean as yet, but it's something I noticed immediately. I recognize the tooth, but I will have to go and read to see what is next. Other thing we obviously saw, and I'm sure you did immediately, is the color. It's bright and yellow, and obviously the moment they do this, they attract attention because your headline is in red. And can you see the man is dressed in yellow as well, but he has a red collar. Even if you look on the left-hand side, right on top, it says pedigree. And it has a little emblem there, and it's in red. Now, unfortunately, in the exam, your advertisement is not going to be in color. It's going to be in black and white. But while you are preparing for the exam, please look at this. And please remember that different colors are used to create some kind of emotional effect of you. Red is always dangerous, and blue is a more calming effect. Obviously, in the exam, we can ask you what colors should have been used there or could have been used there. So this is something you need to look at, even though the one you'll be getting will be in black and white one day. Right. Let's see what else we noticed. Yes, I talked about the shapes, but as I said, we'll have to go and read what it means because I really don't know what those little shapes mean at all. So they got our attention. Let's look at the interest. Now, with interest, it's all about the words. And this is where they make promises. Remember, they want to keep your interest. Now, look at the promise that's made in this text. Discover 4 key differences in just 6 weeks. Do you notice how they've printed that? That's really clever, isn't it? The 4 and the 6 really stand out. Again, because it is in a little block, font is different. Now, this is where they try to obviously persuade you to start buying this. And obviously, we want to read further. The next one is the desire. After the interest, it creates desire. Now it's all about the fact that we need this product and we need to go and get it. So how do they do this? Look carefully at what they've done here. Do you notice Let me just go back quickly. Do you notice what they did here? Oops, I'm going way too far now for myself. Sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, just give me a sec. Just going to go back quickly. Giving away all the nice information here that you should not see yet. Okay. I think we're just going to wait 1 minute. I think just take a quick break and let me just get my PowerPoint back on track. So I'll see you back in 2 minutes and we'll discuss that advertisement again. Welcome back. We're discussing advertisements, and you remember that they're now creating a desire with us. And I told you the choice of words are so important. The copywriters choose certain words because they want to emphasize something. In this case, they use the words every dog deserves leading nutrition. That really creates something of you, a desire that you want to give your dog the absolute best. And if you read carefully, you'll see there's even a free sample. Obviously, we all love free samples, so obviously we're going to go for that. So what is our next step? Yes, obviously, to go and buy the products. Now, please remember, what they do is they include the product on the advertisement, such in this case. Why? So that you are able to recognize that when you're in your supermarket or hypermarket or wherever you shop, that you'll be able to recognize the product and yes, go and buy it. Remember, obviously, you want your dog to be happy as a pet lover. And obviously, you are now going to go and buy it. It's very cleverly done, isn't it? Now, when I explained the advertisement to you, there was some terminology that I used. I have to make sure that you know that terminology. You have to know, for instance, what a headline is. A headline is probably the top part of your the top part of your advertisement. You have to know the difference between a logo and a slogan. You have to know the difference between a copy text, an image. So when you take any advertisement, always make sure you are able to identify it. On the screen, you have a difference between a logo and a slogan. Be careful. We love asking you to identify the logo or the slogan. And we ask you sometime, why is it there? Why is it effective? So when you study advertisements, and you can literally study advertisements using any advertisement, see if you can identify the logo and the slogan. Remember, the logo is usually a little picture. For McDonald's, it's that M. For Clover, it's looks like a little leaf. And a slogan, that's a catchy phrase that gets stuck in your head always. So make absolutely sure that you know the difference. A question that's often asked is, what visuals are used? Now, when you get a question like this, you have to pretend the person marking your paper can't see what you see. So you really have to tell us everything that you see. Now, isn't this amazing? Look at this. It looks like a graph, but it's actually a chocolate. And on one side, you have your anxiety level and your brakes. That is really cleverly done, isn't it? So in this case, you have to tell me, I see a graph and I see different bars on the graph, but the bars of a graph is actually chocolate. And it looks like someone who has eaten these chocolates. And you know, of course, that Kit Kat, their little slogan is take a break. So every time you take a break, you're obviously having some chocolate. So make sure you're able to tell me, what do you see? Now, every advertisement consists of pictures and words. And again, you need to find that combination and the connection. So specific words will be used to attract a specific audience. Now remember, one of our things is the target audience. I'd love to ask you that question. So always look at the words that's given to you. The one on your screen is one of my favorite ones. It came out of COVID time when Kentucky Fried Chicken had this advertisement, and it said, that thing we've been saying for 64 years, ignore it. Eat the wings, drink the gravy, fill up on fries. Just please forget the thing we normally suggest. You know that thing you used to do with your tongue after finishing a delicious piece of our chicken? We get it. It's not easy. There's a reason it's been our slogan for over half a century. Let me just stop here. Do you know what they're talking about? Do you know what their slogan is, Kentucky Fried Chicken? Yes, I'm sure you do. It is finger licking good. But the whole world's drastically changed of late. And as soon as we can embrace the change, the sooner we can all get back to what we do best. I remember during COVID times, we couldn't lick our fingers. And that's why they brought out this advertisement. But it is so cleverly done. Can you see they use the word thing the whole time? And that obviously refers to their little slogan. It is so clever. So you have to become a critical analyst and look at the words that's used and think, why did they use these words specifically? Look at that, the one sentence in the first paragraph, finishing a delicious piece of chicken. Kentucky Fried Chicken is known for its chicken, but now they've added an adjective, delicious piece of chicken. So they're actually saying, our food is just delicious. Can you see how they're slipping in some words to get you to go and buy this? So cleverly done, isn't it? Now, as I said, we've got the words, we've got the visuals. Now we need to find the connection. So that's really important. Now, this is one of my favorite advertisements. I'm going to give you a moment just to look at it. Remember, look at the words, look at the visuals. Can you find the connection? Let's discuss it. Let's start with the visuals. What do you see? Well, I see 3 hamburgers, don't you? And I see they're quite big and they look absolutely amazing. If I look at the words, it says big, beefy, bliss. Only 3 words. But it's so cleverly done. Do you notice the technique that is used here? Yes, of course, it's alliteration. Big, beefy, bliss. But please notice the punctuation. There's a full stop after each word, forcing you to stop. Big, stop. Beefy, stop. Bliss, stop. So it forces you to see that every single word should be emphasized. So what is the connection between the visual and the words here? Obviously, these hamburgers look big. And yes, they do look beefy. Remember, we've got a double quarter pounder with cheese here. We've got the Angus Deluxe 3rd pounder. And we've got a big bun. And you can see the beef in here. And the bliss? Do you know what bliss means? So in exam, this will be a nice question for me to ask you. Give me a synonym for bliss. Bliss means obviously to enjoy something with passion. And obviously when you're going to eat these burgers, you're going to experience bliss. Can you see how clever it's done? Can you see the slogan? I'm loving it. See, we can now ask you, what is the connection between the slogan and the message of the advertisement? Always try to find that connection. Message of the advertisement and the slogan. Obviously, when you eat this, you're going to love it. It's clever, isn't it? Eh? Brilliant. Now here, we talked about this one. So what is the connection in this case? I wanted to show you another one because I just thought it was so clever. Look at the one on the left-hand side. We have discussed the Kit Kat one. This one says, please do not lick the page. I'm sure you would think, why would I want to lick the page? Why would anyone want to lick the page? But if you look carefully, you'll see this is Nutella. Nutella is a chocolate spread. And the words are written with chocolate. Obviously, you want to lick this page. Now, can you see how cleverly this is done? There's only a few words here, but the message is clear. Nutella is so wonderful that you just want to lick the page to get to the chocolate. Can you see the connection? Right, let's look at the next one. This is a question that's often asked. And when you study your advertisement, this is a question that you need to keep at the back of your mind. Is this advertisement effective? In other words, does it force me to go and buy the product or use the service? Now, discuss your answer. Remember when we discussed the comprehension, we said discuss is a higher order question where you really have to give us evidence, and we're using the peel method. So let's look at the one I've given you. Well, if you get this one, the first thing you need obviously is to study the advertisement in detail, because you really have to know what's going on there. You will have to prove that you either agree that it's effective or that you don't agree. Now, you can agree or disagree. Either one will be correct, as long as you're able to substantiate or give me proof as to what you're saying. Now, your answer must specifically refer to the following. And this is a recipe that you can learn. You have to refer to the images. In other words, you have to look at the pictures. You have to say something about that. You have to refer to the words. And in the first place, you have to refer to the message. So in your answer, you will refer to the image, the words, and the message. And by doing that, you will get your 3 or 2 marks, or how many there are. Now, let's quickly look at one. Again, this is one of my favorite advertisements of all time. I love advertisements, as you can see. So if you look at this one, and the question is, do you think this advertisement is effective? Now, what do you see? You see an arm lying there. We assume whatever it is dead. And then it says raid, and that refers to the bottle there. Destroys all flying or crawling insects. Sure. Now, I'm sure you are able to recognize this arm. Do you? Yes, of course, it's Spider-Man. And Spider-Man is an insect, isn't he? But he's a superhero insect. Now, if you look at the words, destroys all flying or crawling insects, because they've done that, it means it's not the normal insects, it's any funny insect. And look at the word destroys. Sure. That's a bit tough, isn't it? Doesn't kill, it destroys. So now that you know this, do you think it's a good advertisement? Do you think it's effective? Let's look at it. So remember, you can say either yes or no. So if we say yes, it's effective, we can say that Raid has actually killed Spider-Man because that's the person we think is lying there. And if we talk about the words, we say, sure, it destroys all kinds of insects, including Spider-Man. And that is, of course, our message. So even superheroes are destroyed by this. This is really strong. So that makes it a very good advertisement. Not that we want to destroy Spider-Man, it's just, Raid is just so good. But we can also say no. We can say no, this is not effective at all. And why will we say no? And see, we're doing exactly the same. We're again referring to the picture and we say no. If you don't know whose arm this is, it doesn't make any sense. You will not understand the advertisement. And the words, we can say destroys is something very violent. This is not a nice word to use. And the fact that they put it into inverted commas makes it strange. We don't know what they're trying to say. So the message is not clear. And that's what we then can get to and say, no, it's too violent. People don't want to buy something that destroys insects. We just want them to be killed, to be dead, not destroy them. Can you see the other side now? So what I want you to do is, when you practice advertisements, try to see if you can do both sides of a coin. In other words, yes, it's a good advertisement, but also try the other side to say, no, it's not a good advertisement. Right. I'm sure that has helped, hasn't it? Our next part is cartoons. And again, just like advertisements, there's so many things. But it's almost the same as advertisement because we have picture and we have words. And there's a connection once again. So there's a few things that you just have to remember. I brought you this cartoon so that you can laugh because I find it really funny. This is Vince and his mom. And in the kitchen, this is Jeremy. And Jeremy says, need any help, Mom? Yes, you could toss the salad. And Jeremy goes and he throws the salad in the dustbin. And then he asks his mom, what was wrong with it? Now, this is now with a play on words. So when you toss a salad, it has two meanings. It can either mean to throw it in the garbage, exactly like Jeremy has done, or to toss it means to mix it. So obviously the mom is standing like this because she realized Jeremy has just thrown away a perfectly good salad. So it's quite funny. Now, please remember, a cartoon is a story. It tells a story in words and in pictures. So I found this one. I know Valentine's Day is gone, but I think it's quite relevant. Jamie says, are you mad at me, Sarah? Yeah. I texted you 3 hearts, a kissy face, and a rainbow, and you sent me a stupid thumbs up? And then a last phrase, dude, are we jamming after school? Can't. I'm going to emoji counseling. So obviously, Jeremy is not getting this thing right between him and Sarah, how he has to respond to 3 hearts, a kissy face, and a rainbow. Right. So it's a story. Obviously, we can see that Sarah and Jeremy is having a big fight, right? Yes. So when you analyze cartoons, we start at the basics. We start with a setting. Where and when does it take place? Now, I hope a little bell rings in your head that when we did the literature, one of the things you had to do was a setting as well. And that refers to place and time, exactly like a cartoon. So again, I've got a wonderful cartoon from Jamie here for you. Dad, are you dressed? Yep, come on in. And then look at Jeremy's reaction. He says, ah, I meant completely dressed. Oh, I'll be back when my eyes heal. I earned this body, bub. Right. So obviously this is taking place in the bathroom, isn't it? How do we know that? Obviously, if you look at the last frame, you can see his dad is brushing his teeth and he's spitting out whatever it is. So that gives us a clue where it is. When does it take place? Well, it could be either in the morning, but because he's asking, are you dressed? Either in the morning or in the evening. We don't have a clear idea. Right. Now, something you need to focus for me on is facial expressions. Remember, the cartoonists have to use everything possible to give his message, and one of them is facial expressions. Now, look at Sarah's facial expression in frame 1. Can you see her eyes are wide open and her mouth is wide open as well? Now, can you see how Jeremy's facial expression changes from frame 1 to frame 2 to frame 3? Especially his eyes. Frame 1, it's quite small. Frame 2, it's big. And frame 3, it looks like it's just halfway. You should be able to pick up on these small details when you study cartoons. Remember, facial expressions shows your emotions. So, how do you feel today? Well, only you can answer that one. You might be feeling really sad. You might feel sick. You might feel irritated. Whichever one. The fact is, you must be able to put your feelings into words. That's crucial because you have to do that for your character, the cartoon, as well. So if you're struggling to put this into words, how you're feeling, ask your teacher for a list of emotion words so that you'll be able to put it into words. Now, body language is absolutely important. Remember, your cartoonist uses facial expressions, the hand, and the body to show meaning. And now we look at gestures. What gestures are made? Now, the best one here is obviously Jeremy in the second frame, when he literally covers everything up because he doesn't want to see his dad naked or half naked. Even in frame 3, he covers his eyes. Now that tells you, obviously, he's embarrassed. Right. Now, something that is often used in the question paper is terminology, just like we had with the advertisement. Now, we're going to refer what we call visual clues and verbal clues. So I really need you to make notes here. This is very, very important. Visual clues refers to the pictures. In other words, what do you see? Here we can look at setting, characters, body language, and even movement. Once again, please pretend the person that will be marking your paper can't see what you see. So please tell me everything. So in this case, you have to explain to me that Sarah is pointing to Jeremy. She is leaning forward. Can you see that? She's leaning forward. Jeremy is leaning backwards. It's small things, but you have to show me exactly what you mean. How do I know she's angry? Well, her mouth is wide open. Her eyes are wide open. And as I said, she is pointing. So those are the visual clues. Can you see I'm not looking at the words at all? I'm looking at what do I see visually. Now, obviously, the other side of that is the verbal clues. And verbal clues have to do with your words. Now, remember, a cartoonist can't put sound into his cartoon. So what does he do? What does he do? Yes, you got it right. What he tries to do then is to use font and punctuation to make sure you are able to recognize that there is an emotion that's involved here. So verbal clues has to do with the words. And here you really have to go look for me. Are certain words written in a bigger font? Is there question marks or exclamation marks? Because the moment a character starts using exclamation marks or question marks or bold, big capital letters, then you know that person is screaming. So look at the font. So verbal has to do with the words. You can even look at the words that they are saying. Now, one of the most difficult questions that we often ask with regard to cartoons is humor. And it's really quite difficult to teach somebody humor because I might find it funny, but you might not find it funny. But I want to teach you ways to look at humor and try to identify it into a cartoon. Now look at the one you've got in front of you. I think she's called Mrs. Potato Head. I think she was in Toy Story. Now, can you see, just looking at her little face, can you see she's angry? Mouth is big. Can you look at those eyebrows? Look at a little triangle. Arms at the side. Why is she angry? No, look at her son. This is Potato Head Jr. And what is he doing? He's rolling his eyes at her. She says to him, "Don't roll your eyes at me, young man!" Exclamation mark. Now, obviously, he's doing it literally. He's literally rolling his eyes at her. Now, if you roll your eyes at someone, it means you don't agree. I'm sure you've done this many times when your parents have told you something and you roll your eyes. Now, this is just a literal cartoon to show you what it would look like if you were literally to roll your eyes. So this is important. You have to figure out in the cartoon, is something meant literally or is it meant figuratively? So this is step number one. That's really important. If you can figure out that, half of your battle's already won. Let's look at another one. There are a number of techniques that a cartoonist will use to create humor. And the first one is obviously irony. So irony is when somebody does something or says something that we don't expect. It's completely the opposite of what we expect. In the irony question, even in literature, you have to use the word but or however. That is really important. If you forget everything I've told you today, please hold on this. So for irony, you need to include but or however. Now let me show you irony here. When a tow truck breaks down and needs to be towed, that is irony. Why? The tow truck is supposed to tow other cars, but now it's broken down. Now it must be towed by somebody else. Did you hear my but there? That's important. Let's see, here's another one. When a police station is robbed, you never expect a police station to be robbed. But if a police station is robbed, that is irony. Another word is what we often use is when something is ambiguous. Ambiguous means can be understood in two different ways. Do you remember our cartoon where Jeremy tossed the salad? Now here's the same. Look at these examples I've got here for you. Let me focus on the army one because that's probably the funniest one for me. Army vehicle disappeared. An Australian army vehicle worth $70,000 has gone missing after being painted with camouflage. Obviously now it's camouflaged so well that they can't find it. It's almost like irony as well. But look at this one. Students cook and serve grandparents. That is ambiguous. Did the students make food and serve the grandparents? Or did they cook the grandparents and serve them? The chicken is ready to eat. Does it mean we are going to eat the chicken? Or is the chicken ready to eat whatever chickens eat? Can you see how brilliant that is? So look out for words that have a double meaning. Satire. Satire is when we make fun of something, but it has actually a very serious message. Look at this. Study habits. China, they study maths. In India, they study science. And in the USA, they're not studying. This is funny, but it's actually quite serious message. So what's happening to the learners in school in the USA? So let me give you an example. We can ask you, is this cartoon funny? Now let's quickly run through it. It says, Mom, 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 Mom. Now there's 1, 2, 3, 4 moms with exclamation marks. Now you can imagine if you call your mom like this, she's going to run. And can you see this mom is really running? Can you see that facial expression? Can you see those hands moving? And she runs and she opens the doors and Jeremy says, look, wait. And he literally has a little bit of skin that he's holding on. And he says, all this carbo loading is finally paying off. And then look at mom's face. Her one eye is closed, the other one is wide open, and it says, mustn't strangle son. And do you recognize this? Yes, of course you do. It's a thought bubble. She's thinking this. Right. So is it funny? If it is funny, you need to explain to me why it's funny. But remember, you can also say, no, it's not funny. It's not funny because Jeremy is almost giving his mom a heart attack. Whichever one you're using, make sure you give us enough reasons and evidence. So let's quickly look at question 5, the language part. Again, almost like the comprehension, you're going to have a short text, and on that 14 marks will be set, and you're going to have a visual text on which 6 marks will be set. And in total, your question 5 counts 20 marks. Now, there's so many things I can ask. So I just want to run through a few things that you need to study. Parts of speech. Remember, this is different from figures of speech. So please make sure your parts of speech, you know exactly what their function is. You have to be able to identify any words, parts of speech. Vocabulary. Please remember, it is all about the word here. So you have to know the difference between a prefix and a suffix, and what is a root word. Synonyms and antonyms. Homophones, homonyms. The difference between denotation and connotation. And obviously those horrible words that are often confused, like to, and true. So make sure you have a little checklist and you literally tick off what you have to know. This is really important. Remember, they can literally ask you anything. So how do you study for language? Well, the more you read, the easier this will be. And if you don't like reading, then I suggest you find those past papers, question 5, and you practice as many as you can find. What do I need to study? Oh, sure, you like my little man there. There's a whole list of things that you need to study. Obviously, your teacher will go through this with you, but I need to remind you. Types of sentences. Concord. Do you remember what concord is? That's subject and verb agreement. Active and passive voice. And be careful. They don't always ask active voice to passive voice. They can ask passive voice back to active voice. So try and study both sides. Direct and reported speech, same rule. Sometimes we give you a piece of dialogue and we ask you to rewrite it in reported speech. But we can do the same. We can give you something that's written in reported speech and ask you to rewrite it in direct speech. Remember, you're grade 12 now. Punctuation. Can you see how important this is? Because we're using it in the cartoon, advertisement, comprehension, everywhere. Changing sentences into questions. Remember, every tense has a different way to change a sentence into a question. So look at that. Using a question tag, positive and negative. Sure, there's a long list. Changing the tense of a sentence. You must be able to do that. Changing a sentence into a negative. And of course, combining sentences. So there's a whole list of things that you need to do. And the best way is to take your textbook and try and find these exercises and do as many as you can. And if you don't find exercises, Google is your best friend. Please remember with Concord that you have to know the rules. I think there's about 11 rules. Make sure you know them. So with language, it's things that you have to learn, unfortunately. The difference between and among. Remember, all of these language rules will help you when you're writing your essays, your longer transactional, even your shorter transactional text. Now, the last part of the paper has a small visual text in it. Can you see what it says here? I love sheep. And they will be asking all kinds of questions here as well. Or you could say, I see a lamb. For example, I could ask you to write the sentence in the past tense. I saw a lamb. Now, or we could give you a picture like this, and we could say to you, give us the correct form of the word between brackets. Reading is the key to success. Success people read a lot. And it should be, of course, successful people read a lot. And that's my message to you. If you want to be successful, you have to read as much as possible. Let's quickly recap. You had your comprehension. Read, read, read. Summary, those 5 steps that you have to do. And your advert, EDA principle. The cartoon, verbal and visual clues, and language, it's all about practicing. Practice makes perfect. Remember, success is made of 1% luck and 99% of sweat. Practice is your ticket to success. Thank you for a wonderful lesson. I wish you all the very best. Please remember to log in again on Monday for the next first additional language lesson. Thank you and have a good day.